Seattle Tunnel Partners admits their crews threw away some of that evidence and lost other pieces of the pipe, saying it was all an accident. But the state brought STP to court today here in Olympia to argue that that evidence was lost either recklessly or on purpose.
STP's operation was a complete disaster.
The state's attorney says Bertha ran into trouble before hitting that buried pipe in 2013, and that will be argued in the original lawsuit. But the state says proving that will be difficult without key evidence, pieces of the pipe, rocks, and a journal, items STP says were either lost or destroyed. The state questions whether that was an accident.
The pieces of boulder and the pipe were not marked with a sign. They were not locked in the warehouse. There was no company-wide, employee-wide memo or policy saying protect this evidence.
There was no concealment. There was some embarrassment.
STP's attorney says they wanted to preserve the evidence, but a cleanup crew inadvertently threw away the boulders and pieces of the pipe.
It was an accident, a mistake that happened. There was no intent to destroy this material. There's no reason for us to destroy STP. We wish we had it and would support our case more than what we have now.
I have no explanation for it.
Another misplaced piece of evidence, the journal of STP's deputy project manager, Gregory Hauser, his personal notes from when Bertha hit the pipe.
Once I was told that there were sections that were missing, I looked every place I could think of that they could possibly have been, and I was unable to find them.
This mini trial continues tomorrow. It's not clear when the judge will announce her ruling. She does have the authority to throw out the entire lawsuit based on what happened to this evidence, but the state of Washington is only requesting that the evidence that was lost or thrown out cannot be considered as part of this case, which could determine who pays for Bertha's cost overruns. In Olympia,